What's up, everybody? Jackson Fuller alongside Owen Hassell, and it's December 2nd. It's December, and we're still talking football, guys. It means at least one of our teams has had a phenomenal season, and it is just one. The New Hanover Wildcats will play this Friday night in the Eastern Regional Final. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. Let's first recap what happened this past Friday, just very briefly. New Hanover will start there. They faced a Grays Creek team, Owen, the 14 seed. And I think we both said there could be a lot of points scored in that game. And through one half, it certainly looked like we were right about that prediction. But the New Hanover defense pitched a second half shutout. The offense got it rolling after a little bit of a sloppy start. 47-21 New Hanover winners over Grays Creek, and really I think the Wildcats could have picked the number of points they wanted to score in that game. The offense was so good. Mackay Stanley only had about 4 or 5 carries in the second half. He could have ran for 200 yards. Yes, Grays Creek was the 14 seed, but anytime you win a game by 26 points in the third round of the playoffs, that's an awesome sign, isn't it?
Yeah, and Grays Creek as well. When you're a 14 seed, like you said, you've knocked off 2 great teams to get there. And when you're in the third round, everybody's good. At this point, we've all discussed the idea of the playoffs. Are there too many brackets? Are there too many teams that get in? And the state has done some tweaking with the 1As and 4As where they get buys, top 4 seeds, all that kind of stuff. I've always said once you get to that second, especially the third round, this is the real playoffs.
Right.
Now you've got the teams in there. And yes, to win that way in the third round just gives you all kinds of confidence, because Grays Creek might have been the hottest team in the postseason getting to that point. The way it won, too, it wasn't like it resembled any type of fluke. No. Grays Creek deserved to be there, and yet New Hanover said, well, we deserve to be there a little bit more. Yeah. And now into its second regional final in the past 3 years. Great job by the Wildcats.
Yeah, very impressive. I know, I was on the sidelines during the game, and you could sense there was a little bit of tension for New Hanover. They go down 21-14 off of a fumble recovery, a scoop and score for a long touchdown, which should not have been a fumble, but it's okay. The referees miss some calls every now and then, and it's hard with, in the high speed of the game. But the defense was a little tense, but really you had a sense that it felt like New Hanover's defense was playing worse than it actually was. They only gave up 2 touchdowns. One of them came off a short field. They tightened up in the second half and got the job done. So the Wildcats move on. The other team, we did have another team playing Friday. Hoggard went down to Wake Forest, lost 13-0. Phenomenal effort from the Vikings. I mean, that's a game a lot of people predicted to be a blowout. And Wake Forest first-string quarterback went down, but the strength of their team was their offensive line and their running backs and running the football. And for the most part, Hoggard did a good job shutting that down, and that's an impressive performance from Craig Underwood and the Vikings down there.
It's all in how you look at it. That's obvious at that point there that Hoggard hung tough, but we're given a lot of chances here.
Yeah, that's
true.
A
lot of opportunities, especially on offense, to get some type of production, to get into the end zone at least once. And I know that's going to be a little bit haunting in the offseason, knowing that, wow, there was really a legitimate chance with a team that's young, with a team that's had its own trials and tribulations, to get to a regional final and couldn't quite make that step. We would have had 2 teams in the area make 2 regional finals in the past 3 years, which has been pretty amazing just in the city of Wilmington. I know that's probably eaten away at Hoggard a bit, despite the great performance overall, to stay right in there with Wake Forest, to say, oh, we couldn't have just stayed right in there. Yeah. Could have won this game, despite, you never want to see anybody get hurt, of course, right. But the first-string quarterback getting hurt was also a factor.
Definitely a story, a good encapsulation of the Hoggard season. The offense just wasn't quite what it needed to be for the Vikings to be the team that they usually are. With that said, maybe we can talk about this more after the season when we're reflecting on it, but did, as a state, us two here today, did we underrate the MEC a little bit this year for Hoggard to win a second round playoff game against an Apex Friendship team where a lot of people thought Hoggard would lose that game, go on the road and play Wake Forest tough? New Hanover is rolling through right now in their playoffs. Of course, they've played 2 MEC teams, but I have, from watching the Grays Creek team, I think West Brunswick was a better football team than Grays Creek. West Brunswick got a tough draw, had to play New Hanover. I would say West Brunswick's one of the top 4 teams in the 3AA East this year. maybe we, as a whole, just kind of underrated how good these defenses here in the MEC actually were this season.
Or maybe, well, that's part of your point, maybe playing in the conference just made the teams better, beating each other up a little bit because it had been the Hoggard Hanover show the past couple of years, and Brett Hickman and West Brunswick said, now just hold the phone for a minute. We're going to be pretty good this year, too. And that put another wrinkle into it.
And Topsail beat Hoggard this year.
And Topsail, first player to Nola Valley goes down.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. Like this, the world has ended for a Topsail team with some big ideas. Well, Topsail got through that for the most part. Would have loved to still had him, of course.
Yeah.
But got through it and was also still a factor. You couldn't overlook Topsail. So you had at least 4 teams there.
Yeah.
And also North Brunswick and what it did to make strides. There's a lot to be said. Yes, I think this year the depth of the Mid-Eastern Conference probably helped a New Hanover, a Hoggard, even a West Brunswick in the postseason, not to mention those teams played pretty tough non-conference slates too. Like, could you have even imagined first week or two of Hoggard just getting absolutely blitzed against Scotland County to say, okay, this team will definitely rally the troops now with the injuries, with the offensive sputterings, that it would now make the third round of the playoffs. Could you have ever even imagined that back in August? But that's the difference between coaching and preparing and getting new wrinkles put in that you have, working with the people that you have, the players you have to get to that point. So I think a lot of it just comes with, again, the conference beating each other up a little bit and some good coaching all the way around. We've said this a few weeks, Jackson. Who is the coach of the year in the Mid-Eastern Conference? Is it just Brett Hickman and you just go a runaway vote with that? I'd say no.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the MEC, who they crown, who the coaches voted for the conference champion. I have to imagine it's going to be Dimmick just because you look at this New Hanover team. Yes, it was good last year. It was still the second best team in the conference, but the changes to the offense, they're not putting up nearly as many points, but they're controlling games better, and the defense has just been phenomenal. And I know Coach Fuller is the architect behind that defense, but look, Dimmick's come in and changed some things around, with the scheme wise and working with Coach Fuller. So it'll be interesting to see who the conference head coach of the year is. Usually it's the team that wins the conference championship gets the coach of the year, but there are a few options this year with just teams that have made such great strides.
And I'll say this, no co-coach of the year. Don't give me this co-thing or co-players, co-stuff. Make a choice, stick with it. Let's not get on the fence with anything. Feelings in the end shouldn't really be hurt because if you had a great year anyway, so what? Awards are awards. They're fantastic. They're nice. But you want to win football games and you want to see the kids succeed in life, all those types of things. That's really what's most important. This is just for us to talk about and have
that mindset. You guys have a sneak peek. We will not have any co-players of the year with the starting as far as fall awards. Anyways, let's talk about the game this Friday night. New Hanover at Lee County. Let's get to know Lee County a little bit. Owen from Sanford, North Carolina. I'll be making the drive down Friday night. Lee County undefeated this year, 14-0. They've ran through their they ran through the first 2 games in the playoffs. They beat Eastern Guilford 41-7, Southern Alamance 33-12. Last week had to rally to beat Cleveland. They were down 20-3, came back and won 34-27. The offense, they run a spread offense, but the defense is really the talking point here just because 3 Division I commits on that defense. You've got a defensive end, Desmond Evans, committed to Carolina, who ESPN has ranked the second best player in the entire country. Jaden Chambers, a cornerback, committed to Carolina, and then DeAndre Dingle Price, a defensive tackle, committed to Appalachian State. It's a lot of talent in one defense in the state of North Carolina.
And yet Cleveland led 20-3 in the third round. So I only say that because it's like Rocky when Drago is beating him up. He's like, well, he's just a man.
Yeah.
He's just a man. It's a team. I know it's not just a team. This is obviously a great team, and the prospects that you mentioned. And Desmond Evans is not the top tackle in the team. He's not first in tackle. He's not second in tackle. He's not third. He's fourth on the team in total tackles. Now, part of that's probably teams are going, we're not going to run near him.
If he's left, they're running right.
He's right. So there's probably a lot of that, and other guys are picking up the tackles as a result. Nothing against his skills because the rankings are there, and Carolina wanted him, and all that to be said. But Lee County, obviously a great team. This will be New Hanover's toughest test. This should be your toughest test right now. You're in a regional final. And Lee County getting through the first 2 rounds, I always say you have to watch out for the directional Guilford schools. They're always around there,
Yeah.
south, northwest, Guilford, eastern, southern, Tar Heel, Carolina, Guilford, all these different schools. Got through all that, got through Cleveland, here's where they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned that because Lee County has, over the past few years, their thing across the state has been breeze through their conference, which is a weak conference, get to the playoffs and lose early against a team that is the best team they've faced all year. They have, excuse me, this year is a very senior-laden group. Those 3 guys on the defense I just mentioned are seniors. Their quarterback is a senior who's thrown for 2,100 yards and 28 touchdowns this year. Their running back's a senior. He's ran for 1,800 yards. So there's a little bit more experience this year, and they've gotten through those humps. I think Lee County, I don't think they've ever won a state championship. I'll need to double check that before I go put it in print anywhere. But, this is a team that has a lot of talent, but the history of this team isn't one that's won state championships. They're going to try and change that this year. I have 2 really quick storylines or thoughts I kind of want to bounce off you. I haven't given him any sneak peek into what I wanted to talk about.
Right.
First off, this defense with 3 Division I commits, you got 2 guys, Jaheim Marshall and Mekhi Stanley, who believe they are Division I players. I also believe that, for the record, that they could play at a Division I level. This is your chance. Go out and prove it against a defense with 3 Division I guys. I have to imagine the Carolina commit's probably going to be covering Jaheim most of the night. What a statement this could be for those 2 guys to put it on their highlight tape and let people know that they're for real to have a good game. What an opportunity for the New Hanover's 2 most explosive playmakers.
1, yes. 2nd, haven't they already proven it against a West Brunswick defense with guys that have D1 commits to their name twice?
Yeah.
And so there's that. If people haven't seen enough of Jaheim Marshall and Mekhi Stanley, then that's their problem.
Yeah.
Because in this day with social media, recruitment is, I would dare say easier. I say easier for being seen.
Yeah.
People are going to find you, and if that's still a concern right now that they're not getting that type of looks, well, there's some problems with some schools right now, and I know there's a lot of in-state colleges that need some help this year. We've seen college football, we've seen what's going down. I mean, my Tar Heels are 6-6, great, getting to a bowl. State with a losing season, Duke with a losing season, East Carolina with even more of a losing season, App State doing well, and then Wake doing all right. There's teams in the state that need to keep that local talent there. And if you're not looking at these 2 guys, then where are you looking?
I will say you're right about they've done it against West Brunswick, but it's just one of the unfortunate things is for whatever reason, the closer you are to Raleigh and Charlotte, the more likely you are to get recruited. And I'll just say it, I think this is an opportunity for those guys to make a name for themselves in a regional final against a really talented defense.
And here's another example of that, Javonte Williams.
Oh, yeah.
We remember his story.
Oh, yeah.
Look what he did this past Saturday against NC State.
And he didn't get that offer from Carolina until he had to do it on their field in a state championship
I was going to
game.
bring that up. If you went ahead and did it, that's
Sorry,
fine.
sorry,
That's exactly, no.
I can't let you talk about your Tar Heels too much.
Well, no. I mean, imagine, though, if Wallace Rousseau had not played that game at Kenan Stadium, because that's where he really got the look, and Larry Fedora and staff said, okay, let's pull the trigger. And Javonte Williams wanted to play for an ACC school. He went, D1 in general, but ACC is what he was really looking at. No offers, nothing at all. We were all going, why? Right. And then all of a sudden Carolina sees him in that state championship. Okay, we'll throw it to him, and look how it's paying off. And that's a success story. That's not going to happen in every situation, right. But what are you going to lose with one of these guys?
Absolutely. And then the second thing I just want to briefly talk about, you mentioned we've talked about the 3 stars for Lee County, and 2 of those reside on their defensive line. I think if New Hanover wins this football game, it's going to be because of the Wildcats' defensive line. The Lee County, they only ran for about 3.5 yards a rush against Cleveland in their East Regional Final. That's something that the New Hanover defensive line has to replicate, and they've been so good all year. This is an opportunity for them. If you point to one thing that Lee County has that's maybe not as strong as the rest of their roster, from what I can tell, it's their offensive line. Can Jeremiah Bancroft, Patrick Faircloth, and Jack Barbie create pressure on the quarterback and stop the run? If the New Hanover defensive line plays well and can create extra possessions for New Hanover, whether it's with turnovers or just forcing punts, that's a great recipe for success. And I think that that's going to be the biggest key for New Hanover to win this football game is their defensive line has to dominate, or not dominate, but they have to win that battle against the Lee County offensive line.
It's unfortunate the West Brunswick defensive line isn't playing in this, right, Jackson?
No. I'm done comparing these two teams this team to West Brunswick. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, it's obvious though that New Hanover's defense has done a lot and then some. When that was certainly a question mark last year, and a lot of it had to do with some young players up there on the line, just the defense in general, and obviously have grown up this past off season.
Absolutely.
and just really made strides. Kudos to John Fuller and the staff there, and obviously Dylan Dimmick coming in and instilling things. At the same time, when you're a first-year coach, how much can you really put into the team to make them that much better in the fall? So I still think a lot of it just goes as much onto the staff as anybody. And Dylan Dimmick will be the first one to say that too.
It's just player development. I mean, you've seen it from New Hanover. These guys come in and look, I know some people think that it's this big, powerful, 4A school in Wilmington, but it's a 3A school. It's got about 600 less kids than Hoggard, Laney, and Ashley now. They've got to play some sophomores and juniors on their varsity defense, and that's what happened last year. Their first game against J.H. Rose, I think they had 2 freshmen playing linebacker because of injuries. Those guys have grown up. There's a bunch of seniors now on the defense, and one of the things that's impressed me the most about their defense is a new guy can do it every night. I mean, on Friday night, the defender that I spoke to after the game was Patrick Faircloth, who had 2 sacks, and he is either their second or third best defensive lineman, but he's making a huge impact. All 3 of their linebackers have had games where they've been the best player. Jacob Jones might be the defense's best player on the field as a safety, and he doesn't necessarily have games where he's making that huge impact just because teams aren't throwing it deep. They don't want to throw it his way. So it's just a defense that, from the defensive line to the secondary, there's not really very many holes, and that's just a kudos, like you said, is it to Dimmick, is it to Fuller, is it to the assistant coaches? It's everybody associated with that program, and they'll need one more big game if they want to reach a state championship.
And I'll say to Chase Nixon.
Yeah, well,
this is a guy that this was a question mark too before the year because, well, you just lost the New Hanover County passing record quarterback in Blake Walston, and can Chase Nixon just keep things moving in a positive direction? You weren't even looking at huge goals for Chase Nixon. That is no slight on Chase Nixon. It was just you're going to have some pieces around you. The cupboard's not empty. What can you do with it? What can you do to highlight your strengths and make this team better? And I think he's done that and then some as well. And another part to it is, if New Hanover gets to a state championship, will that be his 4th appearance in a state championship game, baseball, football, in his career? There's been some great athletes that go through New Hanover High School, and that's pretty impressive along with it. We talk a lot about Blake Walston. If you want to go back to Roman Gabriel and Sonny Jurgensen and these guys, well, how many of them played in 4 state championships? It's hard to figure that out.
Yeah, and I think Chase is a perfect example of just this New Hanover football team this year. And I'll close the video by saying these last 2 things. Chase is an excellent high school quarterback, and when he has time, he can make throws that you just say, wow, what a throw. And that's something that I did not expect coming into the season. He's overachieved, I think, from expectations. And I'll close with this. When I went to the first practice for New Hanover this year, I interviewed Mackay Stanley about transferring over from Ashley, and he said he wanted to win a state championship. And I think my face was composed, but inside I was just like, you want to what? That's the goal this year? You want to win a state championship?
Well, that's always a goal for
everybody.
I know,
but you're right, but it seemed unrealistic at the time just because of how the defense played, that they were losing their quarterback, that the offensive line wasn't good last year. Those are things that you have to win a state championship, good play across those 3 fronts. The quarterback's been great. The offensive line has been good enough, absolutely good enough, and the defense has been great too. And Mackay Stanley, his expectations, whether they win or not, they're good enough to do it. They're just going to have to go win 2 more games.
I watched the Mackay Stanley last year to Ashley. It was just absolutely frustrated. Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, what else do you say? I mean, I watched a kid that was working hard and seeing no type of reward, whether that's fair to him, unfair to him, fair to Ashley, unfair to Ashley's, whatever. But it was difficult on him, and it was really wearing on him to the point where what else can I do? what else can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And some people could say, well, you took the easy way out and went to New Hampshire. No, that's not it at all. He's just trying to do what's best for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was best. And look how he's been able to flourish more. He'll probably get a few more people looking at him as far as colleges is concerned. A lot of these types of things. Kudos to the kid. And I would say now he's probably looking back and going, okay, things obviously worked out, but I'm not getting beat up now.
Right. Yeah, it's worked out great for him. He's had a tremendous year. I'm still waiting for the one game where he gets 25 carries. I think it might come sometime over the next 2 weeks if the opportunity presents itself. Just because I think if he got 25 carries, he could rush for over 250 yards.
Well, it's got to come in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if there is a second week to prepare for. If there is, we'll be right back here talking high school football with you, previewing a potential state championship. That would be exciting. New Hanover were trying to get to their second state title game in the past 3 years. They've already reached their second Eastern Regional Final in the past 3 years. Follow along at Star News Varsity for updates Friday night. I'll be making the trip down and all week, and we'll have some preview content for you Thursday morning along with this video today. Hope everybody enjoyed watching. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving, and enjoy the week. And New Hanover fans, good luck. Try not to focus too much on the game. It'll be here before you know it, but it should be a fun Friday night in Sanford with two teams, one 14-0, one 13-1, the 1 seed, the 2 seed. It's exactly what you asked for in high school football playoffs. So everyone have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you soon.